The room was dark, lit only by the dim glow of the clock on the nightstand. Daniel shifted under the blanket, his breath uneven, a restless murmur escaping his lips. "Oh, Sophia." The sound snapped me awake instantly. My sister's name. Spoken low, almost tender. I held my breath, waiting, convinced it was nothing but the tail end of a dream. A second later, his lips moved again. The word was less clear, mumbled, but I didn't imagine it. It was her name. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. I stayed frozen, staring into the dark, afraid that moving would somehow confirm what I'd heard. Minutes stretched into hours until dawn crept through the blinds. Daniel rose as usual, rubbing his eyes, yawning like nothing had happened. "Morning," he said casually, heading straight for the coffee machine. His voice was steady, his movements relaxed. Too relaxed. I followed him into the kitchen, searching his face. He buttered toast, scrolled his phone, then set it face down when I came closer. A small gesture, one I might not have noticed any other day, but now it felt like proof that something was hidden. "Big day at work?" I asked. He didn't look up. "Yeah." Meetings stacked. The words were normal. The way he avoided my eyes wasn't. By evening, suspicion had grown unbearable. When he stepped into the shower, steam fogging the bathroom door, I reached for his phone. My palms were slick with sweat. The lock screen glowed back at me. The passcode had changed. He'd never changed it before. I tried his old code. Denied. I tried again. My chest tightened with each failed attempt. On the third try, the screen unlocked. Relief mixed with dread. My thumb moved straight to the messages. And there it was, her name. Sophia. The thread was short. Empty gaps marked where messages had been deleted. But the fragments left behind were enough. "Don't mention last night. Same place tomorrow. Can't stop thinking about it." I read them over and over until my vision blurred. The timestamps were late, long after I had fallen asleep beside him. The shower shut off. My pulse spiked. I closed everything, returned the phone to the exact spot, and forced my body still on the bed. My hands trembled against the blanket. Daniel walked out, towel slung around his shoulders, smiling lightly as though nothing in our life had shifted. He leaned down, kissed my hair, and went to the dresser. "Want to order dinner later?" he asked. His tone was casual. I nodded, my lips curling into a weak smile, but inside, everything was cracking open. It wasn't just the messages. It wasn't just the name whispered in the dark. It was the look in his eyes when he avoided mine, the sudden wall between us where there had never been one before. Why was my husband texting my sister at midnight, and what exactly had they been hiding from me all this time? The next morning, I couldn't shake the words, the messages, the weight of suspicion pressing into my chest. Daniel left for work with his usual kiss on my cheek, the same mask of normalcy. I waited until the door clicked shut before calling Sophia. "Coffee later? Just us?" I asked. My voice sounded steady, though my hands trembled around the phone. She hesitated, a pause barely longer than a breath. "Sure," she said finally. "Same place." By the time evening came, my stomach was in knots. The cafe was crowded enough to blur background conversations, but quiet enough that I could hear every detail of hers. Sophia slid into the chair across from me, her hair tucked neatly behind her ears, her eyes scanning the room before settling on mine. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You look tired." I forced a laugh. "Didn't sleep much." Her fingers drummed against her coffee cup, quick and restless. "So, what's going on?" I studied her carefully. "Do you and Daniel talk much?" Her hand stilled. A flicker of something, fear, maybe, crossed her face. "Sometimes." "Why?" I kept my tone even. "I saw your messages." The color drained from her cheeks. She gripped the cup tighter, staring down into the steam as if answers might rise from it. "Anya," she began, then stopped, shaking her head. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." Her lips parted, but no words came. The silence between us grew thick, filled with every memory of the sister I had trusted my whole life. Finally, she whispered, "You know I would never want to hurt you." The words were too rehearsed, too careful. My throat tightened. "But you did." She looked up then, her eyes glassy. "Please don't make this bigger than it is." Her plea rattled me. If there was nothing to hide, why was she begging me to minimize it? The air in the cafe suddenly felt suffocating. I pushed my chair back, my body trembling with a mixture of rage and grief. "I don't even know who you are right now," I said quietly, and walked out. That night, Daniel returned home later than usual. His tie was loosened, his smile tired. "Long day," he said, setting his briefcase down. I studied him from across the room, my arms folded. "Were you with Sophia?" The question hit him like a slap. He froze, his hand still on the strap of his briefcase. Just a fraction of a second, barely noticeable, but enough. "Of course not," he said quickly. Too quickly. He walked into the kitchen, his back to me, moving with forced casualness. But I couldn't unsee the pause, the flicker of guilt in his eyes. It wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was real. Something was happening between them. The question clawed at me as I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. If Daniel and Sophia weren't just exchanging messages, if this had been going on longer than I realized, then how far back did the betrayal truly go? The next few days passed in fragments, me watching Daniel's every move, analyzing every glance at his phone, every excuse he gave for staying late. He was careful now, more than before, as if he could sense the shift in me. But careful didn't mean flawless. On Friday night, Daniel told me he had a dinner meeting. He kissed my cheek on his way out, his tie perfectly knotted, his smile quick but stiff. Something in my gut told me to follow. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my coat and left. The city streets buzzed with weekend traffic, neon signs flickering over sidewalks slick from an earlier rain. I parked near the bar I knew Sophia liked, heart hammering against my ribs. Through the window, I saw them. Daniel leaning across the table, Sophia brushing his hand with hers. Their faces close, their laughter too soft for anyone else but each other. My breath caught in my throat. Seeing them together was worse than reading messages, worse than sleepless nights of suspicion. It was proof, undeniable and brutal. I didn't go inside. I couldn't. Instead, I drove home in silence, replaying that image over and over until it carved itself into me. When Daniel returned hours later, I was sitting in the living room, lights dim, my arms crossed tightly over my chest. He froze when he saw me awake. "Thought you'd be asleep," he said lightly, but his voice faltered. "Were you with Sophia?" The words were steady, sharper than I expected. His jaw tightened. "No. Why would you even?" "Don't lie. I saw you." The silence that followed was the loudest sound I had ever heard. His eyes shifted, his lips pressed together. He didn't deny it again. Finally, he whispered, "It's not what you think." That phrase again. The one cheaters always use when the truth is too ugly to say. The next day, Sophia showed up at my door. She looked pale, almost sick, her hands trembling as she held her bag. "Emma, please. Let me explain." I let her in, though my chest burned. We sat in the kitchen, the ticking clock filling the space between us. She spoke quickly, her voice breaking. "It wasn't supposed to happen. I know it's unforgivable. But it didn't start recently. It started before you and Daniel even got engaged." Her words hit harder than any scream could have. My breath left me in a sharp gasp. Before. Which meant every vow, every kiss, every plan for the future had been poisoned from the very beginning. "How long?" My voice cracked. Tears streamed down her face. "Years." We stopped for a while, but, she broke off, shaking her head. "I thought he would choose me. And then he chose you." I stared at her, numb. The betrayal wasn't just current. It was my entire marriage, built on lies I never saw. But one thought pushed its way through the haze. If they had been lying to me for so long, who else knew? The kitchen felt smaller after Sophia's confession, the air heavier. I sat across from her, my hands clenched on the table. She cried, but I felt nothing, no sympathy, no pity. Only a cold, hollow clarity. You mean to tell me, I said slowly, that when I walked down the aisle, when I said my vows, both of you already knew it was a lie? Sophia's lips trembled. I didn't want it to go that far. But you let it. My voice was flat. You stood there, smiled at me, hugged me after the ceremony, and you already had him. She broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. I couldn't look at her anymore. I walked her to the door without another word. That evening, Daniel came home earlier than usual. He found me in the living room, suitcase half-packed beside me. His expression faltered when he saw it. Emma, wait, he said, his voice rising. We can work through this. I stood. Work through what? Years of lies? An affair with my sister? Tell me, Daniel, which part are we supposed to fix first? He reached for me, but I stepped back. His face crumpled, but I didn't care. I'd wasted enough years on his lies. I'm done, I said firmly. I'm leaving. And this time, you don't get a second chance. For a long moment, he just stared, shoulders sagging, lips pressed together as if he wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. Finally, he lowered his hand and let me pass. I carried the suitcase out the door and didn't look back. The weeks after were painful, but quiet. I rented a small apartment on the edge of the city, plain, bare, but mine. No whispers in the dark, no hidden messages. For the first time in years, I could breathe. But the story wasn't over. One afternoon, Sophia showed up at my door again. Her eyes were swollen, her voice hoarse. Emma, I need to tell you one more thing, she said, her hands shaking. I crossed my arms. Why should I believe anything you say now? Because this time, it's not about me. She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. Mom and Dad knew. They knew about me and Daniel. They told me to stay quiet. They thought you'd be happier not knowing. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. They knew. Sophia nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. They wanted to protect you, or at least that's what they said. But they knew. I closed the door in her face without another word. 4 hours, I sat in silence, staring at the bare walls of my new apartment. First my husband. Then my sister. Now my parents. Every person who should have protected me had chosen lies instead. And yet, beneath the shock, a strange calm settled over me. I had no family left to trust. But maybe that was the gift inside the betrayal: freedom. I wasn't defined by their secrets anymore. This time, I would build a life without lies, without anyone else's permission. And if they thought I'd stay silent forever, they were about to find out how wrong they were.